The chamber of the Galactic Council shimmered like a cathedral of glass and starlight. Billions watched the broadcast across countless worlds, the day a single planet's fate would be decided. The banners of 1,000 species floated in the ether, their holograms twisting and rippling above the dais. At the center stood the human delegation, 3 people who represented 8 billion souls. Commander Nathan Hale, his jaw locked tight as stone, wore a dark Terran defense uniform stripped of insignia. Beside him, Ambassador Lillian Ross, Earth's chief diplomat, stood tall in a black coat, her eyes betraying nothing. And behind them, the youngest, Lieutenant Carter Blake, carrying the data core that held every recorded plea, every petition Earth had sent to the Council. No one had listened. The High Speaker of Varnak, a serpent-like creature with translucent scales, hissed for silence. The vote shall commence. Humanity stands accused of uncontrolled militarization, genetic independence, and failure to integrate within galactic order. The chamber echoed with murmurs. Nathan's voice was low but steady. We defended ourselves. You left us isolated for a century after first contact. The speaker's forked tongue flicked. And yet, in your isolation, you built warships rivaling entire fleets. You refused our oversight. You threatened stability. Lillian's voice cut through the static hum. We asked for partnership. You offered servitude. You feared what we might become. Her words lingered, but fear outweighed fairness. Holographic sigils began to flare in the air, the vote. Each council species, one by one, cast their luminous mark. Blue for mercy. Red for enslavement. 1, 2, 10, 50. Red after red. Species that had never seen a human face voted to chain Earth. To strip it of sovereignty. To turn the homeworld of humankind into a labor world, its people scattered as servants, engineers, and soldiers for alien wars. Nathan's fists tightened behind his back. His heart pounded like distant artillery. When the final sigil burned crimson, the speaker's voice echoed across the stars. By decree of the Galactic Council, Sol 3 Earth is hereby bound to the Allied Dominion. Humanity shall serve under direct oversight. Resistance will be met with cleansing. A roar of alien approval filled the chamber. Lillian Ross did not flinch. She simply turned, every motion deliberate. You've made a mistake, she said softly. You will regret this. As they were escorted out, Nathan whispered, What now? Lillian's reply was quiet, calm, but cold enough to freeze air. Now, we survive. And we wait. 30 years later. The galaxy forgot Earth. Human laborers became myths, unseen workers beneath the glittering towers of alien empires. Terran engineers repaired ships they would never fly. Terran soldiers fought in wars that were not their own. But Earth had not fallen silent. In the dark, beneath the ruins of New York, under the ash plains of Moscow, inside orbital scrapyards disguised as ruins, the Terran Vanguard rose. It began as whispers. Secret transmissions between enslaved mining crews. Codes hidden in the hum of maintenance drones. For Terra, they said. For home. By the time the Dominion noticed, it was too late. Commander Nathan Hale, presumed dead, had vanished into the shadows decades ago. But among the enslaved, stories spread of a ghost ship, the Resolute, prowling the edge of the Helion Rift, capturing Dominion war freighters and freeing human crews. Ambassador Ross was long gone, executed after Earth's rebellion, but her final broadcast survived. Humanity will kneel only to protect others. Never to serve them. Those words became doctrine. And then one night, in the outer spiral of the Delta Veil, the impossible happened. A Dominion carrier, the Orith Prime, vanished from hyperspace. Sensors caught only a flicker of distortion before it disappeared. Days later, its wreck drifted into a neutral sector, its hull split open like a crushed insect. Every guard, every overseer, dead. But the human slaves aboard? Gone. Freed. The Council dismissed it as piracy. But then another ship vanished. Then 3. Then a fleet. A ghost war was beginning. The return to the stars. Inside a concealed asteroid shipyard near Proxima Centauri, a hum of engines filled the air like a heartbeat. The Resolute floated in the dark black hull, invisible to radar, powered by fusion arrays and something new. Nathan Hale stood on the bridge, staring at Earth's distant sun on the display. Fleet Command reports 37 ships operational, said Carter Blake, now Captain Blake. His eyes carried the same fire Nathan once had. Another 20 in dry dock. We're ready. Nathan nodded slowly. And the others? Every colony. Every labor camp. Every slave ring, we've sent the call. When the signal goes out, they'll rise. Nathan turned toward the stars, where the Galactic Council's worlds glittered like arrogant jewels. For 30 years they used us, he said. Now they'll see what we learned while serving them. Carter smirked. You think they'll beg for mercy? Nathan's gaze hardened. No. They'll beg for protection. The Resolute's engines ignited a silent flash across the void. Around it, the Terran Vanguard fleet came alive, ships built in secret, using stolen alien technology fused with brutal human ingenuity. Metal beasts born from servitude reborn for war. Humanity had waited long enough. As the fleet entered warp, Nathan whispered the words that had become a vow among every enslaved soul. For Earth. For those who fell. For the stars that forgot us. The Vanguard vanished into hyperspace, leaving only a trail of blue light in the black. The galaxy didn't yet know it, but the day of reckoning had begun. The Dominion had ruled for 10,000 years. It had seen rebellions flare and die, entire civilizations reduced to ash for daring to rise. But never had it faced an enemy like the Terran Vanguard. They struck from the shadows, silent as ghosts, precise as surgeons. No warning. No demand. No mercy. Operation Lazarus. The first blow came at Varnak Prime, the very world where the Council had voted to enslave Earth. It began with a whisper in the planetary datanet, a virus, subtle and patient, waiting decades for activation. Then, at precisely 0300 Galactic Standard, the skies over Varnak split open. From the void descended ships unlike anything the Dominion had built. Sleek, angular vessels with matte black hulls that bent light around them. No insignia. No broadcast ID. Only a single pulse on every frequency. Code, Lazarus. Humanity lives. The orbital defense platforms never fired a shot. Their systems went blind, hijacked from within by Terran code. A moment later, the Resolute emerged from the dark, its hull blazing with ion fire. Commander Nathan Hale stood on the bridge, calm amid chaos. Target command centers. Leave the civilians. Yes, sir, replied Captain Carter Blake. His voice was tight, focused. Weapons free. Particle cannons flared, cutting through orbital stations like paper. Dropships poured from the belly of the fleet, sleek, black craft carrying strike teams of ex-slaves turned soldiers. The Varnak elite scrambled, sending pleas for reinforcements across subspace. None arrived. Every transmission was intercepted, rerouted, or simply erased. By dawn, Varnak Prime's military was gone. Its capital stood in ruins, but the population lived. Human engineers restored power grids, rebuilt hospitals, delivered rations. And on every broadcast, one message repeated. Humanity does not conquer. Humanity remembers. The galaxy trembled. The Council reacts. 2 weeks later, in the reconstituted Galactic Council chamber, fear stank in the air. Admiral Zothar of the Klein Dominion slammed a clawed hand onto the table. They have destroyed 6 fleets. How do primitives from a backwater world wield such power? The Speaker of Varnak, now humbled and shaken, hissed, they used our own technology against us. They built weapons we cannot detect. Then we destroy their world, another delegate screamed. Their world? The Speaker's eyes flickered. You mean our labor world? You think they left it unguarded? Silence. On the outer rim, Dominion probes had already vanished near Sol system. Every scout ship that ventured close returned with scrambled data or didn't return at all. The few surviving recordings showed only static and a single word burned into their flight logs. Resolute. The word spread like a curse. The Vanguard's creed. On board the Resolute, deep in the war room, Nathan watched the holographic display of liberated systems. 17 colonies free, Carter reported. 3 council worlds neutralized without civilian casualties. We're gaining allies, species who were enslaved long before us. The Karth, the Dreen, even the Thal. Nathan nodded. Good. Every being who remembers a chain will stand with us. Lieutenant Mara Keen, a former shipwright turned fleet strategist, looked up from her terminal. But the Dominion is adapting. They've started using gravitic jammers. We can't rely on stealth forever. Then we stop hiding, Nathan said quietly. We show them what we've become. He turned to the window. Beyond it stretched 1,000 liberated worlds and 1,000 still enslaved. He thought of Lillian Ross, her calm defiance, her last words before her execution, "You will regret this." Nathan had promised her memory one thing. He would make the galaxy understand what humanity truly was, not conquerors, but protectors forged by pain. Prepare the broadcast, he said. Let them all hear us. The broadcast that shook the stars. Across every communication channel, every star network, every orbital hub, a human face appeared. Commander Nathan Hale stood before a black banner marked only by the sigil of Earth. His voice was steady, resolute. 30 years ago, you voted to enslave humanity. You broke our world, scattered our people, and taught us what it meant to endure. We learned your science. We studied your fleets. And we remembered every lash, every command, every voice that told us we were lesser. Now we rise, not as conquerors, but as guardians. The Terran Vanguard does not kneel. We liberate. The transmission spread faster than any Dominion could suppress. On slave worlds, cheers erupted. Chains were shattered, overseers executed, flags torn down. For the first time in 10 millennia, the Dominion's empire began to fracture from within. The trap at Helion Rift. But victory came at a cost. At the edge of the Helion Rift, Dominion intelligence finally caught a whisper of the Resolute's next target. They gathered every available fleet, 200 warships, 10 dreadnoughts, and the flagship Sovereign Dawn. Nathan knew it was a trap. And he went anyway. As the Resolute dropped out of warp, the void blazed alive with plasma fire. Beams slashed across space, shaking the shields. Multiple dreadnoughts closing, shouted Carter. We're outnumbered 20-1. Nathan didn't flinch. Activate the Nemesis array. Mara's eyes widened. Sir, that's untested. We could collapse the entire rift. He looked at her. Then let's make it worth it. The Resolute's core flared with impossible light. The experimental Terran weapon, built from stolen gravitational technology, unfolded like a blooming star. The Dominion fleet opened fire, a storm of plasma and kinetic slugs, but their shots curved away, bending around the Terran flagship as if space itself refused to harm it. Then the array fired. A beam of blue-white energy lanced through the rift, slicing through the Dominion's flagship, tearing the void open. Ships vanished, crushed by collapsing gravity wells. Carter gripped the console. Holy! Signal all ships, Nathan ordered. Evacuate the rift. Leave them to their own destruction. The Resolute vanished into hyperspace just as the rift imploded, swallowing what remained of the Dominion armada. News spread like wildfire. The unbreakable Dominion had lost half its navy in a single battle. And the legend of Commander Nathan Hale, the man who refused to kneel, became unstoppable. Echoes of fear. Weeks later, in hidden corners of the galaxy, alien leaders spoke in whispers. The Dominion was failing. Systems were defecting. Slave races were revolting. One question echoed through the stars. If the humans can do this, what happens when they decide to rule? But Nathan didn't want to rule. He wanted balance. Peace. Protection. He knew something darker was coming. Something beyond even the Dominion's cruelty. And when it arrived, the galaxy would need more than freedom, it would need someone willing to stand between life and annihilation. As he looked out over the stars from the bridge of the Resolute, Nathan whispered to himself. "We're not done yet." The galaxy burned. From the ashes of rebellion and shattered fleets, new horrors stirred in the dark between galaxies, an ancient force that had watched, waited, and now awoke to feed. It began with silence. Entire sectors went dark. Stations drifted lifeless, their crews gone. On deep space sensors, impossible signals pulsed, not ships, not life, but hunger. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Dominion and its enemies found something they feared equally. And only one fleet was ready. The call for help. The Terran Vanguard's victories had reshaped the galaxy. Dozens of enslaved species were free. The Dominion was collapsing under its own corruption. And yet, amid the fragile peace, came the first distress calls. On board the Resolute, Commander Nathan Hale stood on the command deck, watching the flickering hologram of the Klein High Admiral, the same species that had once voted to enslave Earth. Its translucent scales quivered in terror. "They consume entire worlds," it rasped. "They do not negotiate. They rewrite matter. Please, Commander Hale, help us." Carter Blake exchanged a cold glance with Mara Keene. "After what they did to us? You want us to save them?" Nathan said nothing for a long time. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the reactors. Then he spoke, voice low but firm. "They made their choice once. And so will we." He looked to his crew. "Prep the fleet. Set course for the Klein core worlds." Mara frowned. "You're helping them?" Nathan turned, his expression grim. "If these things consume them, they'll come for everyone next. We don't save them because they deserve it, we save them because we must. That's what makes us human. The enemy beyond stars." When the Resolute arrived at the Klein core, the system was unrecognizable. Planets scarred black. Debris clouds thick as fog. The corpses of entire fleets drifting silently, their hulls fused into grotesque, organic masses. And beyond it all, the enemy. They called them the Airthul, creatures that defied science. Not ships, but living void things the size of moons. Their surfaces shimmered with fractal patterns, their voices a chorus of static. Reading biosignatures across every spectrum, Mara whispered. "They're feeding on the reactor cores, absorbing energy itself." Nathan's eyes narrowed. "Then we cut them off." The Terran fleet spread out, 60 ships strong, forming a defensive net around the remaining Klein refugees. Lock targets. Fire at will. Beams of plasma and railgun rounds lanced through the dark, tearing into the monstrous shapes. The creatures screamed, not in sound, but in the vibration of space itself. But for every one they destroyed, 2 more emerged from the rift. Carter's voice broke through the noise. "Sir, they're adapting to our weapons." "Then we adapt faster," Nathan growled. "Deploy the array." The Resolute's experimental weapon, the same gravitational system that had annihilated the Dominion fleet at Helion, began to charge. Energy built until the entire ship glowed white-hot. "Cores overloading!" Mara shouted. "We can't sustain this." "Hold it," Nathan ordered. "If they reach the refugee transports, it's over." The array fired a column of light that carved through the void like divine wrath. One by one, the Airthul split apart, folding into themselves until nothing remained but a fading shimmer. Silence returned. But only for a moment. Because beyond the system's edge, the sky moved. An entire armada of Airthul emerged, hundreds of them, darkening starlight. Carter's voice cracked. "There's too many. Even if we hold, the array won't recharge in time." Nathan looked at the projection, then back at his crew, the faces of those who had once been slaves, who had bled for freedom. He understood then, this was their moment. Not vengeance, not rebellion, but destiny. The last defense. "Signal every ship," Nathan said quietly. "Formation Sigma 9. Protect the transports. No one retreats. Mara's eyes shone. You're turning us into a shield. He smiled faintly. That's what we've always been. The fleet formed a defensive ring around the surviving Klein vessels. Human warships, black and scarred, stood between annihilation and life. The first wave of air thaw hit like a storm. Shields shattered, hulls tore, engines died. Resolute's forward armor failing. Carter yelled. Reroute power from the array. Nathan barked. Keep firing. Explosions painted the dark in blue fire. One by one, Terran ships fell, but each time one died, 3 airthal went with it. The Klein watched from their transports, stunned. The species they had enslaved was dying to save them. Commander, Mara said softly, if we hold this line, there won't be anyone left to protect the rest. Nathan looked out into the black. Then we make it count. The turning point. As the last line began to falter, a voice echoed across the calm, an alien voice, trembling but resolute. This is Admiral Train of the Fall Collective, it said. We owe humanity our freedom. We are coming. Then another voice joined, the Dreen. Then the Karth. Then dozens more. Across the galaxy, ships that had once served the Dominion now surged toward the battle, answering the human call. Carter laughed through tears. They're coming, sir. They're all coming. Nathan's eyes glistened. Then maybe we weren't fighting for nothing. The sky blazed with reinforcements. Fleets of every species fought side by side with Terran ships, unleashing a storm of energy that lit up the void like a sunrise. And at the center, the Resolute, burning, broken, unstoppable. The final choice. The Nemesis array overloaded again, this time beyond control. Mara shouted over the alarms. The core's going critical. We can destroy the entire swarm, but it'll take us with it. Nathan took a breath, calm amid chaos. Do it. Carter turned to him, eyes wide. Sir. Nathan smiled faintly. Someone has to hold the line. He placed a hand on Carter's shoulder. Get the others out. That's an order. Carter's throat tightened. What about you? Nathan looked to the stars. I'll be where she is. Tell them we were never their slaves. We were their guardians. As the Resolute's engines roared for the last time, Nathan stood alone on the bridge, staring at the oncoming swarm. He whispered the words that had begun it all. For Earth. For all of us. The Resolute exploded, a blinding wave of white fire that rippled through the system, erasing the airthal in a single heartbeat. Silence followed. The battle was over. Years later, a monument floated in orbit above Earth, a massive ring of alloy engraved with the names of those who had fought in the rift. Admiral Carter Blake stood before it, older, grayer, still carrying the weight of the war. Ambassadors from dozens of species surrounded him, once enemies, now allies. The Klein, the Thal, the Dreen all bowed their heads as he spoke. He looked out at the endless sky. The Vanguard lives on in every world that remembers what it means to stand for others. Above him, the ring glowed softly, its center filled with the eternal flame of the Resolute. And inscribed beneath it were the last words of Commander Nathan Hale. Humanity kneels to no one, but stands for everyone. As the stars shimmered in the black, the galaxy finally understood. The species they had enslaved had become its shield. And in the silence of space, every world whispered one truth. They all voted to enslave Earth, now, they beg for its protection.